But I actually won this as an online contest. I knew the UPS guy was coming, set up a camera because I thought it would be interesting to get a picture of the UPS truck driving up the driveway. Had to start the camera 4 different times just to make sure it was running when he finally showed up. And wouldn't you know it, it was so dark you couldn't really tell that it was UPS truck, especially because they were driving a budget rent-a-truck. But nevertheless, I got a package. This is the iFootage Timberpod, and it's a little miniature tabletop tripod made out of wood. This is the beechwood version. There's another version that made out of rosewood that's got some fancier hardware on it, considerably more expensive. But I actually won this as an online contest. I entered a drawing they were having simultaneously on Instagram and Facebook. I entered, and I actually won one of these things. It's pretty darn cool. Legs spread out to sit low. It's got some very interesting little green feet on here that really is kind of a unique accent, I think. But that's just a cool little thing, but it's actually a functional thing. It's plenty big enough to hold my smaller mirrorless camera, the M50. This could be a really handy thing to take a camera out for vlogging type shots and still have that ability to set it down on a table and use it for stationary shots if you want to be over there somewhere, or if you want to set it up high enough or sit down low enough that you can actually look to it and talk to the camera like I'm doing here. But I think there are some other things that I'll probably put it to use for as well. It could be the ideal stand for some little video lights, like this non-light Lumipad 11 that I've got. This is a nice little accent light, or sometimes when you're trying to take photographs of something that I've got here on the workbench, it's really nice to be able to just take the light and set it right next to the thing you're trying to take pictures of, and it can be a really handy setup that way. Also a great little stand for these little tube lights. Again, this is a non-light Pavo tube. It's one of these things that sometimes you want to put in little strategic places just for little accent lights and special effects, things like that. Looks like one of my other lights went out. Time to change the batteries. Or maybe it's just time to rely on my little light on a stand here. It's also be a great little stand for my Tascam audio recorder here. I can either set it on the table in front of me if I were doing some sort of a podcast type thing, or just talking to the camera but you don't have a microphone on the camera and you want to use this to record the audio separate. Or I can take this out and I can set it on a bench or a rock or just out in the driveway and catch the sounds of nature for a half hour or an hour, just to see what I might catch. And sometimes if you hear turkeys or birds in the background of some of my videos, that's actually the way I do that. Okay, now there are lots of little mini tripods out there, and I'm kind of a sucker for these things. I probably have a half dozen or maybe even a dozen little tiny tripods. But this little wooden tripod is probably the coolest of all. So I was really glad to win this thing. This isn't at all sponsored by iFootage. They didn't send it to me hoping I would make a video. I'm just making the video to share how cool this little thing is. Even though it was a cold morning the day UPS delivered this, it didn't really snow much. But last night, we got a nice 7-inch snowstorm, so I was really glad to see that. That's going to put a lot of water in our storage tanks. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you for the next one. Almost 7 inches.